Hello, fight fans. See out all my fights or friends. Everybody, please hit that like button or I will replace your coffee creamer with liquid THC. Have fun going to work like that in the morning. Some of you, I know that nobody may be able to tell the difference. Shout out to the drunk in charge, Robert Kerrigan. Guys, I was wrong. I was wrong in a video that I did less than a week ago after UFC 270. And I said Dana White has to apologize to Francis Ngannou. I said that is his only option at this point. And that he also owed an apology to the fans. Now, I do believe that he owes some apologies. Does he have to apologize, though? I don't believe he does. And I believe that there is a way in this, decade of echo chambers or era of echo chambers that the MMA community is not immune to, that Dana White can actually double down. Because that's the new right. Not admitting that you're correct, or not admitting that you were wrong, but to double down that you were correct the whole time. And Dana White can go that route. He really can. Of course, everybody knows now Dana White did not put the belt around Francis Ngannou's waist. Even more telling than that, he was not at the post-fight press conference. And I thought, wow, this really backs him up into a corner. Then I heard that Francis Ngannou's team received an email from WME and the UFC of intent to sue for breach of contract because Francis Ngannou had supposedly had contact with a boxing promoter that works with the Paul brothers. Wow. This is insane. To do that to him on the day, obviously, they wanted Francis Ngannou to lose. And there's something I missed there. I didn't look deep enough. They were done with Francis Ngannou. I think they were really showing all their cards there. They're like, hey, you're done with us. We're done with Francis Ngannou. We're going to send a message. Whether that temper tantrum from Dana White was part of the message or just that, a temper tantrum, I'm not sure on yet. But I will tell you one problem that they worked out for themselves, and that is also getting Cyril Gane out of the title picture. Because as much as a lot of people like Cyril Gane, he's not the most entertaining fighter in the world. And what we saw in that fight against Francis Ngannou, and a lot of people will tell you that Francis Ngannou lost that fight. That Cyril Gane was the winner there. And I suppose you could make a case for that. I judged the fights 3-2 for Francis Ngannou. Now, I believe that that fight was judged the way that judges have been judging that fight for a very long time. And that I didn't disagree with. But Chael Sonnen and others have come forth and says, hey, if you judge this by the actual MMA unified rules based on damage, Cyril Gane wins this fight. That's quite possible. I would argue at the end of the day that we are still in a 10-9 situation because of boxing rules, that every round is a 10 must. It's going to be a 10-9, it's going to be a 10-8, it's going to be a 10-7. I don't think anybody's arguing for any 10-8 rounds for either fighter in that fight. You can dominate 2 rounds right up to the edge of a 10-8 and then, just barely lose 3 rounds 10-9 where they're like almost a coin flip, but unfortunately you end up on the wrong end of all of them. It's like you won, 85% of the fight in these 2 rounds, or 80% or whatever it is. And then these other 3 rounds, maybe you won 45% of it. You're still going to lose the fight. Well, once we tabulate the score, it's still going to come out that you lost 3 out of 5 rounds. Unless you get some 10-8 rounds there, you're going to lose that fight. So Cyril Gane, he's out of the picture. And that leaves us with really only one option. And this option, I think this option is great for the UFC. I think it really takes care of a lot of issues. The Francis issue. First, let's kick the Cyril Gane issue out of the way real quick. Like I said, he's boring. Most people after that fight, after Francis Ngannou, took him down 3 or 4 times and held him there. Most people were already doing the work for the UFC. They're saying, hey, if Cyril Gane fought Jon Jones or Stipe Miocic, look what Francis Ngannou's wrestling was able to do to him. These guys are going to take him down and murder him. And it's hard to argue against that coming off of Cyril's performance. I think he will get better. I think he did do some good things on the ground. They just didn't necessarily add up with the way the judges judged that fight. That's another situation. Now let's talk about the Francis situation. Like I said, Dana White, he backed himself into a corner, but he can come out swinging and double down with Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic because both of these guys are going to help him in his narrative. Let's start with the former champion, Stipe Miocic. If this guy becomes champion and Francis is out, he says, hey, Stipe Miocic is the greatest heavyweight of all time. He defeated Francis Ngannou. He dominated him in the first fight. Never got his third fight. So they were 1-1. But the rest of his career stands alone. And he is the better heavyweight. Best heavyweight of all time. Francis kind of fades it into obscurity. Or if you want to bring Francis back, even after Francis left, if you want to try to re-sign him, you goad him with, hey, you have unfinished business. This trilogy with Stipe Miocic, it's 1-1. You can't go around saying that you're the greatest and you're 1-1 against this guy. Now let's go to Jon Jones, one of the greatest fighters to ever live. And most people, if you throw out the PED test, which I would not, but if you throw them out on paper, on purpose, this guy is probably the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Nobody was going to defeat him at light heavyweight, and that's why there was little argument when he left light heavyweight, saying he's going to move up to heavyweight for bigger challenges. People are like, yeah, he should. We're tired of seeing him beaten up on light heavyweights that have no chance of beating him, and the pay-per-view numbers showed it. People were not buying his fights as much just because he was too dominant of a champion. He was just too dominant of a champion. And the Francis Ngannou thing, you can say, hey, this is the guy that you never fought. If Jon Jones defeats Stipe Miocic, you got twofold here. Francis either starts talking bad about the UFC, Dana White's narrative is going to be like, hey, we got a champion that beat the guy that beat you, and you ran away to get away from him. Now, I don't believe that's true, but that could be a narrative that the UFC could go with, and I wouldn't put Dana White above that. I don't think he's above using that narrative, and I don't think you guys would be surprised by that either. The other thing with that is, Jon Jones, he's an incredible wrestler. Francis Ngannou, he can't wrestle. Jon Jones this is a guy that you can have as your champion, and nobody's going to be like, hey, he's not the best heavyweight in the world. You can be like, hey, he beat Stipe Miocic. He's the best heavyweight in the world. And after what we've seen with Francis Ngannou and Cyril Gane, we don't really even want to talk about those guys anymore because nobody wants to see Cyril Gane fight Jon Jones. After that last fight, most people were in consensus that Jon Jones would take Cyril Gane down and beat him up really, really bad. I think Francis is the more dangerous fight for Jones and for both of these guys, just because of stylistic matchups. But you put Jon Jones in there, and as long as you can keep him out of prison or keep him out of the headlines for bad things, Jon Jones is going to do a lot of that work for you too. If Francis says anything, Jones is going to go right back at him on Twitter saying, come on, big boy. You want to talk? Let's go. I'm basically undefeated of all time. And, I beat the guy that was your daddy. He's going to be posting pictures of Stipe Miocic beating him in that first fight. And, photoshopping things of Stipe Miocic spanking Francis Ngannou. And you get the picture. Jon Jones is going to get creative with this. And Francis Ngannou not going to look good in either way. And I'm talking about a guy who should not be in this position with Francis Ngannou. He is the reigning defending heavyweight champion. He's the most terrifying fighter in the history of MMA. When it comes to his size, his stature, and his knockout power. He's the hardest hitting guy in MMA history. 100%. Now, he goes over to boxing. If he fights Tyson Fury, I don't think that's going to bode well for him. That's just my opinion. I would rather see him fight Deontay Wilder. I think really he should fight like a Luis Ortiz, though. Somebody like that. Maybe a Dillian White. Somebody with a lesser skill set that maybe he can find that power bomb over 36 minutes. I don't know that he beats any of those guys, to be honest. But if he's training in boxing, I guess we'll see how good he is. But this is the fight to make. I think it sells. I'm excited about it. I'm already excited about it. And I will tell you, I don't know who wins. And you have Jon Jones, who's, regardless of what you think about what he does outside of the cage, what he's done in promotion, like pushing his forehead against Daniel Cormier's and other things, he's going to actually promote a fight. The opposite of what we just seen with Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane, which that card probably should have done very, very well. From the sounds of it, it sounds like it was anemic. Not only did it not sell out, which is incredible. The gate, it did not sell out. The building in Anaheim did not sell out for the heavyweight championship. You don't know how pathetic that is on everybody's. That's on everybody's plate. That's on Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo in the co-main event also, because they didn't do a damn thing to sell that fight. UFC didn't do much of a damn thing to sell that fight. Francis Ngannou, Cyril Gane didn't do a damn thing to sell that fight. And you've seen it. It was MMA media, independent MMA, small media like myself and a few others, and then a few bigger ones like MMA Junkie, Brendan Schaub, Joe Rogan, of course, did a good job of promoting that fight. But without the actual fighters showing that they cared, it was not a big deal. And Jon Jones, I've said this for a while, that Jon Jones should just go complete heel. And not outside of the cage. Start being better outside of the cage and start being more of a heel inside the cage, inside the promotion. Stop with the whole religious act. Everybody knows it's like if you have an actual, an actual burden on your heart for your religion, for your God, for Jesus, whatever, you can say thank Jesus after the fight. And then just like any other fighter, be done with it. Don't make it your identity, because you're going to cost yourself money. You need to be the clear bad guy. You need to know your role. And Jon Jones, you are the bad guy. I'm going to tell you guys how to promote this fight. Listen to me. Jon Jones, you are the bad guy. Period. You need to start studying some Chael Sonnen tape. You need to get with the villains of the sport. Start watching some old WWE tapes. You're very good at Instagram and Twitter. Stop showing your videos of lifting weights because nobody cares. And start walking around, knock some ice cream out of a kid's hand. Do some villainous things. Make people believe that you're a villain. Make people hate you. Make people want you to lose. The best guy ever in the history of sports promotion at doing this was money Floyd Mayweather, because pretty boy Floyd Mayweather was a much more exciting fighter, and nobody cared. The guy couldn't sell a pay-per-view to save his life, couldn't sell out. He couldn't sell out a local fairgrounds. Nobody cared until this guy became hated, until he got you to want to pay to watch him lose. People have to want to pay to see Jon Jones lose. That's how much they have to hate this guy. And he's doing all the right things outside of the cage to accomplish that. Inside the cage, not so much. Be a little more braggadocious. Talk a little more smack. I want to see a little bit of a gimmick from Jon Jones right now. It's fun, and when done correctly. Everybody loved Chael Sonnen's bad guy gimmick. And then Stipe Miocic, you're already the hero in this. You're already the good guy. This isn't much easier role. And Stipe Miocic, he doesn't do a whole lot with promotion either, but the things he does do are good guy things. He posts firefighter clips, pictures. I follow him on Facebook and Twitter, and he'll post, just feel-good stories. Keep doing that. UFC, promote this guy more like that. Get people to get behind Stipe Miocic and want him to defeat the evil, powerful Jon Jones. Jon Jones, embrace the alcoholism. Embrace the cocaine. Even embrace the failed tests. I'm telling you, embrace the failed test, Jon Jones. Stop with the picogram and the piece of salt that was in the swimming pool. Tell Stipe Miocic that he could take that whole swimming pool full of steroids and he still couldn't hold a candle to him. Jon Jones, you need to up your game. Stipe Miocic, you need to up your game, but UFC needs to up its game and promotion. This is the fight to make. This is the way to move the heavyweight division forward. And if I haven't convinced you during this video, I really don't know what else to say. Let me know what you guys think, though. Is this the fight that you want to see? Do you want to see Francis Ngannou back? Do you not? Do you want to see him in boxing? I'm curious what you guys think. As always, I love you. I respect you. And I'll see your fine asses next time.